Hi, and welcome to the Frightfully Good Vodcast and podcast for 2020. This is episode 1 for this cracking new year, the year of clear seeing, as in 2020 vision. Tonight we will be exploring A topics, Apports, and the Amityville Horror story, with your frightfully good hosts, who are Anne Rekovich from Oz Paratech and Renata Daniel from Newcastle Ghost Tours. We welcome you to the show.
Hope we didn't keep you waiting too long. I had instructions that I had to wait. Hi, I'm Anne Rekovich, and this is...
Hi, I'm Renata Daniel. How are you?
And together we're...
Frightfully
Good. Yes, we had to do it that way. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 2020. We are back, and we are getting organised.
Oh, we are so organised.
We are so organised you would not believe. Big year for us. We have 2 overseas trips so far. I'm sure we can squeeze in a third, Renata.
Oh, I'm sure we could.
So we are speaking at the West Virginia Women's Paranormal Convention in early June. We've just been planning our May aspect of the trip. If you'd like to know more, please look up the Women's Paranormal Retreat Conference and you'll find out more about that. So we're guest speakers there, and we're also doing a workshop on the seance style of communication, which is really exciting.
That is. Yeah.
And then later in the year, where are we?
We are... Where are we? Oh, God, the words.
New Orleans!
New Orleans, that's it. New Orleans.
And what are we doing there, Renata?
Oh, we're having a bloody good time. That's
See
what
how
we're doing.
organised we are? Right. Yes, we are actually speaking at the Haunted Bourbon Paranormal Conference there as well. So we're also taking a group of crazy parastalkers over with us.
A group of friends.
They're our parastalker friends,
Yeah.
and we are going to do the best to have a jolly good old time with them too. We've got a few things that we've planned. We've got all these wonderful American people who are going to be running tours and things for us, and we're just going to drift along. We don't have to work. We just have to enjoy.
Now, I've heard from a friend this week that there's a place in New Orleans called, I think, the Cat's Whiskers. That's supposed to be one of the best places to go for cocktails. I'm wondering if anybody has heard...
I bet Christy's been there.
Has heard of I think it's called the Cat's Whiskers or the Cat's Meow or something like that. So, yeah, if you know of that place, let us know, because we want to be in the best places we possibly can be.
Oh, Nimi, hello. Oh, thank you.
Grab those cocktails.
I'm having a little bit of a detox at the moment because I've been eating carbs probably more than I should. So it's coming out of my body at the moment and it's not good. I'm very cranky, very cranky. It's coming out in every orifice. Anyway, let's get on.
Yes.
So we've got a little bit of structure. We are now following the ABC of the paranormal world. And each week we are going to bring you a topic of interest that you can learn something about and a haunting story. So a ghost story, which we'll also discuss as we go. So this week being A, we are doing Apports, and we actually have some to show you. Yes, some real Apports. and I am going to be talking about the Amityville Horror House.
Yes, yes. And apparently you've been doing a bit of study, Miss Anne.
I have. I've actually been enjoying it.
How amazing.
I know, I've actually done some work for a change. Wow.
So, Anne, would you like to start off the topic
of
the Amityville Horror House?
And I have to tell you, the Amityville Horror House is very close to home for me because it probably kicked off my paranormal journey to a certain extent. Because when I was quite young, when I saw the original Amityville Horror movie in 1979.
What? You were alive in 1975? Oh,
79?
79? I can't picture that, Anne.
Yes, I was 2.
You only look about
I was 2.
And you remember it vividly.
I do. I went and saw it many times at the movies. I really loved it. No, I was in year 9 at school when I went to see that, and it was billed as being based on a real story. So for me to go along and see a real story of what happened to people in the paranormal world blew my mind. You know, that pig with the eyes and the blood oozing out of the wall, and so I've done.
I missed the whole Amityville Horror thing.
Oh, did you? Yeah. I read the book.
Yeah, I missed it.
The book was better than the movie. But anyway, look, let's first start off. Where is it? All right, it's actually in New York, believe it or not, in Long Island, New York, and at the time it was 112 Ocean Avenue, Long Island, New York. So there's 2 different things that happened at this address, right? So the first thing was the mass murders committed by Ronald DeFeo Jr. in November of 1974. He confessed to the murders and pleaded insanity as he heard their voices, in other words, the family's voices, plotting to kill him. So he killed his mother and father and 4 siblings. So I'm just going to give a little breakdown first, then I go into the juicy, gossipy bits.
So Ronald DeFeo was a member of the family.
DeFeo, I think it is.
He was a member of the family.
He was one of the brothers, the children, right? So he was, I think, the eldest of them all. So the other aspect to the Amityville story is Kathleen and George Lutz, I think it is, and they moved into the house in December of 1975. So the murders took place. Sorry, I think I've got a wrong date in there somewhere, because they only moved in a month after conviction. That's right, of Ronald. So the timeline is that he murdered his whole family on the 13th of November, and then on the 21st of November he was found guilty of murder. Now there is a whole little bit of information about his
conviction
and everything as well, and his plead. So December 75, the Lutz family moved in. They lasted 28 days in the house, and they moved out because of paranormal phenomena.
Wrong song.
Oh, sorry. All right. So, in 1977, the book The Amityville Horror was published by Jay Anson, and then in 1979, the movie came out.
Wow, when you think about that, that's not a long time at all after all the things that have happened for someone to just hop on board and to write a book and then create a movie out of it. You know, they're talking about not letting the dead sleep. That's just crazy.
What happens after that book and that movie is amazing. Now, I haven't even looked into the amount of books that were written about the topic. I looked at the movies that were published. So, let me tell you. The Amityville Horror, the original movie, was 1979. Followed by Amityville 2, The Possession, in 1982. Followed by Amityville 3D, The Demon, in 1983. Followed by Amityville 4, The Evil Escapes, in 1989. Then the Amityville Curse in 1990, followed by Amityville It's About Time in 1992.
That's hilarious.
Amityville A New Generation in 1993.
Oh, then we start picking
Amityville Dollhouse in 1996. Then the Amityville Horror remake. I think this one was the remake, wasn't it? In 2005. Now, this one is a special one close to my heart. The Amityville Haunting, which was done in 2011. My son is in that movie.
Wow.
He had a speaking role when he was over in LA, and he had a small speaking role and got murdered very quickly.
Oh, wow.
I just ruined the plot, but that's okay.
We'll have to watch that.
It's really bad. It's really bad, but that's
okay.
That's
even better.
We might host a watch party or something on that. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Then we're on to my Amityville Horror in 2012, the Amityville Asylum in 2013, the Conjuring in 2013, Amityville Death House in 2015, the Amityville Playhouse in 2015,
Wow.
the Amityville Terror 2016, Amityville No Escape 2016, the Amityville Legacy in 2016. I hope you're writing all these down. So many movies to watch, guys. Amityville Vanishing Point 2016, Amityville Prison 2017, Amityville Evil Never Dies 2017, the Amityville Awakening 2017, Amityville Mount Misery Road 2018, Amityville Exorcism. Now, I didn't think it's that topic earlier. That's a good one. 2018, the Amityville Murders in 2018, and guess what? Coming soon for your pleasure is Amityville 1974, 2020.
Back to the start. Back to where it all happened.
There you go.
That's amazing.
So
that is amazing. How many movies is all
yeah,
that?
now just bear that in mind. That's a lot. That's a fucking lot.
That's about 35.
Right. So now, a little bit of information. The DeFeo murders, right? So it's husband and wife Ronald DeFeo. Husband and wife, Ronald DeFeo Sr., and Louise, that was the wife, been shot twice with a .35 caliber Marlin 336C rifle. The 4 children, meanwhile, Dawn, Allison, and Mark and John Matthew, were shot once.
So where's the axe murdering thing come in?
There's no axe murdering. They were all shot.
Oh. Don't they wander around the house with an axe?
Oh, that's Hollywood. All 6 victims were found by the police in their beds, lying on their stomachs. Now, this comes back in a little bit later, right? They're lying on their stomachs. It's estimated the whole thing took about 15 minutes from start to finish. Now, the police evidence suggests that they were actually arranged to sleep on their stomachs. They determined that the rifle was never actually fitted with a silencer, so the gunshot should hypothetically have woken the other members of the family when they went off. However, there's no sign of any struggle with any of those family members, nor was there any evidence of sedatives found in their blood work. So it's really interesting. How did they manage to keep everyone quiet? The neighbours didn't report any gunshot noises, and all they heard was the family dog barking. There was a theory that, this is the police's theory on the case, that there could have been a second killer involved, and they think that's the only way that could have actually been the way the crime could have committed. So originally, Ronald Jr. told the police that he had arrived home from work and found the family dead. He thought that Louis Fellini, a mafia hitman, had killed them. So that was his first story. The investigation then revealed the murders had occurred in the morning. So not after he'd come home from work, but before he'd gone to work. So that's when he began saying that Fellini had an accomplice and shown up at the house in the morning and put a gun to his head and forced him to watch him as they killed their family. So the story changed. Eventually, Ronald Jr. just said, once I started, I couldn't stop. It went so fast, and that he had killed them all. So during the trial in November 75, I have to double check. It must be 75 because that's right. They moved in a month after the murders. He may have been in jail for a year. I'll have to check when it actually happened. It might have been 74. I think it was 74. So he was in a year of jail before he was sentenced. DeFeo claimed that the voices told him to commit the murders. A psychiatrist testifying in the defence said that DeFeo had a dissociative disorder, which meant that he would have experienced the murders as though he was outside of his body and watching it happen rather than actually experiencing them as he committed them. However, the psychiatrist testifying for the prosecution successfully argued that DeFeo actually had an antisocial personality disorder, which meant he would have been perfectly aware of what he was doing and had no regard for right or wrong. So he was found guilty of 6 counts of murder, of second-degree murder, and sentenced to 6 consecutive life sentences. His story did change a few times while he was in jail. According to one interview he gave in 86, his sister Dawn killed the father, after which their mother killed Dawn and the other children before turning the gun on herself. And when he filed for another motion to try and get out of it in 1990, he claimed that Dawn shot the majority of the DeFeos, and before he himself killed Dawn, and he maintains that his lawyer pressured him into the insanity defence, and then as they pushed at his trial. So regardless, his requests for parole have all been denied, thankfully. Now, I'm going to go on to the phenomena. I can't help it. Every time I hear that word, I just have to do that. Right, so this is where I've done a bit of cross-referencing with some other, articles, and there's some interesting little things that turn up. So firstly, there was Father Ray in the movie, which they changed his name for the movie in the book, who was a Catholic priest. He was asked to bless the house. He arrived on December 18. As he starts his prayers, he heard a masculine voice saying, "Get out." Apparently, he didn't mention this to Kathy and George as he left.
Oh, okay. All right. We don't talk about those things.
Let's just not talk about it.
No.
But guilt must have got to him, because on the 24th of December, the priest called them to say, "Stay out of the second floor room." Now, that's almost a week after 6 days.
Yeah.
Where he had heard the voice, former bedroom of Mark and John Matthew DeFeo.
So, where is his duty of care?
I know, right?
6 days. 6 days
After
to leave the family?
had visited the house, he allegedly developed a high fever and blisters on his hand, similar to stigmata. That sounds like hand, foot, mouth. You know when you get those blisters? Like kids get it? It's getting hot in here. I forgot to put the air on. Anyway, so the priest's actual name was Father Pecoraro, and he stated in an affidavit that he's only... Now, this is the reality, right? This is the book, which is supposedly based on a true story. The reality is that he said his only contact with the Lutzes concerning the matter had been by telephone. Other accounts say that Father Pecorino did visit the house but experienced nothing unusual there.
Pecoraro.
Pecoraro.
Not Pecorino. I think that's a cheese.
Yeah, I said, I like that cheese. It's a bit hard. Just the way I like it. Pecoraro.
Yep.
His only on-camera interview during his recollections.
I can't remember.
Hosted by Leonard Nimoy.
I don't recall.
Dubious. This is dubious. Okay. They blurred out his face during it, but here we are giving his name, so never mind. The interview, he repeated his claim that he had heard the voice get out. Now, but earlier they said he hadn't. So, but stopped short of giving it a paranormal origin. Maybe it was one of the kids saying "get out" or yelling to one of their. They were yelling at each other, "Get out!"
Even from across the road.
The dog could be the dog. Get out. He stated that he felt a slap on his face during the visit, and that he did experience blistering of the hand. So we're getting different different sort
stories.
of stories.
Yep.
For those who are just joining us, this is the story about the Amityville house, right? The Amityville hauntings. All right, so then we go on to the other phenomena. George would wake up at 3:15 every morning to check the boathouse. Apparently later they found out this was the time of the killings. Very convenient. The house was plagued by swarms of flies.
Now, I have heard
In
about
winter.
swarms of flies in other poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
So swarms of flies seem to be something that are attracted.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've
We're
heard about that
we're not
before.
making judgment. We're just
Just saying.
Putting
I have
it out
heard
there.
about it. Yeah.
Kathy had vivid dreams of the murders and was shown the rooms and the order they took place in. Now, to me, you know, you would know you're moving to the house where a family was murdered. It would be plaguing your mind. So
If it had been in the papers as well
Yeah.
over the weeks prior.
And look, if
you're
I was
already
moving to
being front loaded with all of that information.
Yeah, I would be looking it up and finding out information on a place I was... And surely, yeah, rumours fly everywhere in a small town.
Yeah.
The Lutz children started sleeping on their stomach.
Well, kids sleep on their stomachs all the time, so yeah, no big deal.
Kathy would feel a sensation as if being embraced in a loving manner. Well, that could be a loved one or whatever. And then George discovered a small hidden room 4 by 5 feet behind shelving in the basement. It was painted red and Harry the dog refused to go near it and would cower. Now, the reality...
The red room.
The red room was actually a small closet in the basement and would have been known to the previous owner of the house, the Lutzes, because it was not concealed in any way. The claim made in Chapter 11 of the book, the house was built on a site where the local Shinnecock Indians had once abandoned the mentally ill and the dying was rejected by the local Native American leaders. So they said that's just bullshit.
Okay, all right.
Right, there was cold spots and odours of perfume and feces where there was no window piping to explain it. The Lutz's 5-year-old daughter had an imaginary friend, Jody, a demonic pig-like creature with glowing red eyes.
Oh, and she called it Jody.
Jody.
That's nice.
She called it Jody.
I like that name.
Little kids actually...
Demonic pig with red eyes. That's a pretty name.
Yeah, kids generally do have... we did a story on this before, didn't we?
Yeah,
where they have imaginary friends. Now, there's a little anecdote to that one as well. Apparently there was a cat in the neighbourhood that used to love visiting that particular house and would quite often sleep on the windowsills, and it was known throughout the neighbourhood of this cat. So maybe it was convenient. So George would wake up to the sound of the front door slamming. He'd race downstairs to find the dog sleeping peacefully at the front door. Nobody else heard the sound. It was loud enough to wake the house. So was he maybe hearing something clairaudiently? A memory? George would hear what he described as a marching band tuning up or what sounded like a clock radio playing not quite on frequency. He'd go downstairs and the noise would disappear. And then George realised he bore a strong resemblance to Ronald DeFeo. Began drinking at the Witch's Brew at the bar where DeFeo was once a regular customer. Now, in Amityville, there never was a bar called the Witch's Brew.
It's a good name for a bar.
It is a good name. However, there was one called Henry's Bar, which was a short distance from their house, and he was known to frequent there. So this is, oh, that's right, they were closing Missy's window, and Missy said Jody climbed out, and Kathy saw red eyes glowing at her.
Could be the cat.
That's the cat.
The cat.
While in bed, Kathy received red welts on her chest caused by an unseen force and was levitated 2 feet in the air.
Did anyone see that?
That's just their report.
And would have been the cat going...
You
You know how the cats do that thing before they nestle in?
Now this is an interesting one.
Scratchy. Yep.
Locks, doors and windows in the house were damaged by an unseen force. That was part of the reported phenomena, right? The claims of physical damage to the locks and doors were rejected by the next owners who moved in because they said that all the locks were still there on the house because when they left, they left. They took nothing with them and walked out of the house and never came back. They were the original locks on all the doors and windows. There were no replaced locks. So this was by the people who bought the house for $55,000 in March 1977. That I just find that to be really interesting. They said it was all original items and had not been repaired. So there's that claim, which is a problem. Now this one, cloven hoof prints attributed to enormous pig appeared in the snow outside the house on January the 1st, 1976. Only problem being, according to Amityville's records, there was no snow.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I mean, you know, whoopsies.
Oops.
These things happen, you know. Why let the truth get in the way of a really good story?
So other phenomena, green gelatin-like slime oozed from the walls in the hall and from a keyhole in the playroom door in the attic. A 12-inch crucifix, holy mother of Jesus, that's a big one, in the living room, revolved until it was upside down and gave off a sour smell. You know, 12 I thought 12 inches was more like that, because I know what 6 inches is. Sorry. And look, there was other things like that. A China lion would move around the house. Kathy transformed into an old woman. Missy would sing constantly while in a room. I mean, my daughter used to sing constantly in a room and stopped singing where she left off. It's like odd stuff. Anyway, police officers, right? So a lot of this stuff they called the police to, supposedly. According to police reports, the Lutzes never called them. They have no record of being called to the Amityville house. So, according to the first...
And they've made 35 movies out of this, guys. God, talking about bleeding something dry.
So according to the first chapter of Anson's book, the furniture had been in the house when Ronald DeFeo Jr. committed the murders and came with the house. It wasn't included in the $80,000 offer they made, an additional $400, which is a comparatively small price to pay for it. And so they think that, you know, maybe that's some lingering juju with that. The family lasted 28 days in the house. After a night that was particularly frightening to the children, the Lutzes said that they had called a priest, there'd been contact throughout the deal, who encouraged them to go somewhere else the following night. Just to get some rest, but they left and never came back. When we left, we didn't know we weren't coming back. We didn't know that we were leaving behind. What we were leaving behind we would never see again. Instead, they packed up and went to their mother's house and just auctioned the house off later. Now, the house was actually investigated by the Warrens. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of conjecture with that as well, because
let's just give
the movie shows the Warrens coming in and working with the family. In actual fact, the Warrens turned up several weeks after they had vacated the house. Now, there is a very famous photo associated with this haunting, and that is the Demon Boy photo. Now, I've got it here so you can have a look. Can you see?
Look for the red ring.
Oh yeah, the red ring tells you everything.
Ring.
So now during that time, it is possible to Photoshop photos. So have a look at it online. Just look up Demon Boy at the house, and you can have a look, make up your own mind. It's a very intriguing photo. I will give them that. I'm not saying they faked it, but it was possible to fake photos at that stage. Hopefully the Warrens, who were a lovely couple, wouldn't have done anything like that. So, interesting photo. Now, DeFeo's lawyer reckons that the Lutzes created this horror story over many bottles of wine. If you look at all the aspects of the story, there is, like, you could almost tick the boxes of what should be in a horror.
Yeah.
Hidden rooms, oozing things.
Cloven hoofs.
And things moving on their own. It really does have a lot of elements that belong to a traditional horror story. But the the Lutzes did hang on to their story and repeatedly denied that they faked it. And I remember seeing an interview not long ago with the youngest son, and his sheer terror was still very obvious for what had gone on in that house. I don't know, but
I mean, what would they have gained out of that story, seeing that they didn't live in the house for a very long time?
the residuals of 35 movies.
Yeah, but have they? Does anybody know how much they sort of have?
Somebody would have had to make money somewhere along the line to be able to use their names and their story.
Okay.
Anyway, there's the other thing that George apparently dabbled in the occult a little bit. They say it wasn't a hoax, but it was greatly exaggerated about what went on. So, who knows? So the people who bought the house then requested, could they please change the number of the house? So it was 112, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
It is now 108. And I mean, you can't blame them, because if I had the opportunity and I worked out that it is 3.5 hours away from where we are staying, I would certainly go down there and stand out the front and have selfie photos taken with the Amityville house behind me. It would be so tempting to go and knock on the door, but I wouldn't, out of respect for the people who must have people knocking on the door all the time. So the last time the house went up for sale, according to the information I was looking at, was the summer of 2016. And it's been owned by 4 different families, and none of them have had any paranormal phenomena. None of them. Which doesn't mean...
No, because I have also had some dealings with a poltergeist house here, or an apartment in Newcastle, and the lady that gave me the original story of what was happening to her would not ever be someone who you would expect to lie to you about the things that happened to her, and the information has been corroborated by other friends who have been in that house and said that they did see things happen and they were part of those experiences. Yet I have met people after that have lived in that same property and nothing has happened to them.
So in actual fact, it's attached to the people, not the house. So that's interesting. But I'll leave this on the final note for my little story. I hope you've all enjoyed it. If you have enjoyed it, give us some hearts. The Lutzes, Lutzes, George and Kathy took a polygraph test, right, in June of 1979. And it was performed by very respectable people. And according to those people, they were not lying.
Wow.
So the debate still rages. Did it really happen? Was it an exaggeration of what happened? Was it all a money-making scheme? Or was it a story made up over several bottles of wine? But it's an interesting story.
And if you think yourself going into a house where a murder is still fresh, really, in the house's history, there is this lingering imagery that is with you, and the lingering sensations of the horrible things that must have happened there. Whether that dissipates over time, and as Anne mentioned, whether the whole poltergeist thing only is reactive to certain people or to certain periods of time, I guess we don't know. I'm not sure about that. But yeah, the problem with a lot of these things is that maybe originally something was occurring and it was noted and it was talked about, but with everything else that occurs, it gets dragged on and creates bigger and bigger headlines as time goes on, and it's really, really hard to keep up with the manifestations that come afterwards. So the original story may be small and unique and absolutely frightening and amazing, but by the time it's retold and retold and retold, it's like the fish that gets
Chinese
caught.
whispers.
And from it being this small, it has to end up being this big for it to keep on being entertaining. So that's the crisis point we're at when we hear these things. You know, people are pushed into telling greater tales so that it becomes part of this imagination. and part of the drama and part of Hollywood. So that's a really interesting story, Anne. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome. Now, what we'd like to do at this stage, we're just going to have a little pause before we go on to the next part, is that we would like to mention the bushfires that are going on around Australia at the moment. Some of our paranormal family have been impacted by these families, by the fires. It's the keto withdrawals. Dan McMath has lost everything. He's a mate of ours, and one of his mates has started up a GoFundMe page. So if you would like to help out one of our friends, please make a donation. It's on there, but we'll post it again shortly. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Celeste Barber.
Yeah, have you guys noticed what she has done? Now, this is what you do with celebrity. This is what you do when you get that freaking famous, that everyone's watching you. Not only is she an absolutely magic person, but she's used that celebrity to raise $35 million. $35 million in just a couple of days.
And it was originally for the New South Wales Fire Brigade, but they've now decided it will be shared across the fire brigades throughout Australia, which is just amazing. Doing far more for us than what our government is. And she was just a simple stay-at-home mum sort of person that used to take the piss out of models and recreate what the supermodels were doing, which was ridiculous, in her normal mum body. And she's hilarious. I love her to death.
Yeah.
So that is the gorgeous Celeste. Get on there and support her as well. So it's CELESTE and then Barber, BARBER.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and like last time we looked, it was 35 million. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. What an awesome individual.
Yeah. How amazing.
She's not making it about her at all. She's being very quiet and she's just encouraging people and saying thank you.
Yeah. And and she's not doing it from a place of ego at all. It's just amazing. And she's recently been on Vogue and met a lot of interesting and very influential people. And I'm sure that's helping the whole process. But I mean, that's like I said, that's what you do with your celebrity status. And we've got a lot of other celebrities pitching in. Of course, Pink has pitched in as well. She's $500,000. And we have our Nicole. Our Nicole.
Oh, our Nicole's doing something, is she? Oh, I didn't know
Nicole.
that.
She's doing something, Nicole.
And we're doing something because we're famous.
I know.
We're doing something Thursday night.
Yeah, Thursday night we are going to be doing our Tarot Thursday, and we're going to put a button on there, which is a donate button, and we're hoping that anyone that comes on will donate a couple of dollars, and we will give all of that money through to our gorgeous friend there that has lost everything.
Yeah. For Dan.
And so
we'll cover all the costs of the admin and all that sort of stuff. We will just get every single cent to Dan.
Yeah, we hope that you're generous there as well. Now, okay, we've got a little bit of time left. Oh yeah, we've got heaps of time left.
Well, I rattled on for half an hour. Now, we're going to tell them about the other things before we go on to Apports, because once we get to the end, we'll lose them.
Okay. We have a big announcement to make.
Hoorah!
Now, this came about, and I'll let Anne talk about this because she's been working very hard behind the scenes to get all of this up. But this literally came because of last year we were getting some people coming online going, how can we help you guys keep doing what you're doing? Because in actual fact, we live and breathe this stuff 24 hours a day. We don't do anything else.
We'd do it more if we had more hours in the day.
We just do this, and we spend a lot of our own money to doing all of this. But we do it because we are very, very passionate. But we want to be able to have you guys join us as much as we can. Have that happen. Now, the easiest way to do that is via recordings, via live feeds, but we actually have to get our asses out there to these places and be at these places to be able to do all of these things and present them to you. Plus, we have accumulated so much information over the time that we have been doing this, plus on our own the years prior in getting information and researching and all of this stuff that
is this our third year?
This is our
third year.
This is our third year. This is our third
Wow.
year. But we've worked prior to that as well. Like I've been doing Newcastle Ghost Tours for 10 years. We've got so much information up our sleeve. We want to share that with you, especially...
And flabby arms.
Especially if you guys want to learn. If you want to learn, if you want to be part of further shenanigans and more shenanigans, we've got something for you.
We have. So thank you to the lovely people who wanted to know how they could support us further. We have created a Patreon page for the Frightfully Good team. So we have 3 tiers. You don't have to sign up to this. You will still continue to get your free Monday night session. You will still continue to get your free tarot. This is for additional content. So if you just want to keep doing what we're doing, that's fine. We have a Patreon level, which is $2 a month. $2 a month.
I'd even give $2.
And that is just our beautiful Parastalker people. Then we have $5 a month, which is you get
additional content.
We'll have a private page for you guys, and you also get an extra half hour of the free tarot readings with Renata and myself once a fortnight. No, once a month, sorry. Yeah, so that because it'll be smaller numbers, there will be a more of a chance for you guys getting a reading. And for those who want to be the Grand Poobah supporters,
Yes, the Grand
we've actually
Poobahs.
called you the Grand Poobah supporters. It's $10 a month. You'll have your own Facebook page. We will have weekly content of extra material, and you will also get the extra half hour extra for the tarot readings once a fortnight. So the reason why we're doing this is so that we can bring you more content. It frees us up from mundane jobs to be able to sit and create more content. So don't feel you have to do it. We don't expect you to do it at all, but if you would like to, we would just appreciate it so much. But we've got it all on Patreon. If you want to get on there, have a look. We'll put some links up later. But there is another reason why we are doing this, and this is the most exciting announcement.
Is that because we're poor?
That's not the right mindset, Renata. Remember, I've been reading Denise Duffield Thomas' book. I've got to think rich. I'm thinking it hurts. I'm thinking.
Oh, right, okay.
We are starting. Are you ready for this?
No! No! Oh my God. Once you say the words, you can't take them back there.
I know. We are starting the Frightfully Good eSchool Academy.
Yes, we are!
We are going to have online learning where you can buy a course at a very reasonable cost and work through your worksheets a bit like you Debbie. Centre of Excellence, but very
Can we have you
reasonable.
para-dummy?
Yep. She snorted! So we had a knight in shining armour come and save us because we just had no idea how to do it.
Hi, Matt, wherever you are in Singapore, up on the top. Where are you? Thailand, somewhere?
Sri Lanka?
Sri
I don't
Lanka.
know.
On the top of a hotel.
He showed us how to
in
do
a
it.
swimming pool, you
So
bastard.
we are now creating the courses, and we will try to. We've got to wait till he comes back from his holiday before we can put them up. So in about a month, we hope to have some content up online. It will be like basic ghost hunting 101, spirit boxes, how to use them, and we're going to have all sorts of things. Protection. All Australian content.
Yeah.
Sri Lanka, there he is. So that is another reason why we're asking for patrons to support us so we can get this all up and running. It can be done from anywhere in the world, Danielle. Yes.
Oh, Lordy.
So that's our announcements for the moment. I think that's probably enough announcements for one day.
No.
Let's get on to apports.
Okay, all right.
Has anybody ever experienced an apport?
Hold on, I've got to press the button here.
Okay, press the button. Has anyone ever experienced an apport? Do you know what an apport is? Well, Renata of Newcastle Ghost Tours is going to tell you all about it.
Okay, all right. So apports are those things that appear seemingly out of nowhere. And they seem to appear when there are seances or mediumship that is occurring. So when people are joined together and create an energetic force and are bringing in information from the spirit world, sometimes what happens is something manifests in that same room or in that same space that seemingly comes from somewhere else in the world. Now, it may even come from a different time. So sometimes what you might get is a coin that is has apported in from 50 years ago or 25 years ago, or newspapers that simply plop onto a table or onto the floor that are very, very old and report on information and news that happened 100 years ago. So, for example, we're sitting around the table, we're having a seance, and all of a sudden a newspaper comes out of nowhere onto the table, and it's a story of the Titanic that's just sunk. Just for example, so things like that. So in parapsychology and spiritualism, an apport is an alleged paranormal transference of an article from one place to another, right? Now, it's not necessarily called upon to happen. It can happen instantaneously while a seance is going on.
It's a spontaneous thing, isn't it?
It's a spontaneous thing, that's correct.
But there are some masters who allegedly
can create these apports to occur. So apports reported during seances have been found to be, in many cases, possibly, again, some form of poltergeist activity, or they may be, so we're looking at poltergeists who are actually doing something useful or good.
Especially if they drop some diamonds into your lap.
Or via a seance. So no medium or psychic. Now, this is according to the parapsychologists that are out there who are looking for demonstration of these sort of occurrences in some form of a scientific type of atmosphere happening. So they're looking at having a space created where they can really have control over the environment. And so the information says at this point in time, and I can stand to be corrected, that's fine, that there have been no psychics or mediums that have been able to demonstrate apports under scientifically controlled conditions. Now, when we go back to the times of spiritualism, there were a lot of psychics and mediums who were bringing apports into the seance parlors back then. Most of them, if not all of them, were fraudulent. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. I'm going to give you a couple of little bits of information here. So we go into March of 1902 in Berlin. Police officers interrupted a seance of the apport medium Frau Anna Rother. Her hands were grabbed and she was wrestled to the ground. A female police assistant physically examined Rother and discovered 157 flowers, as well as oranges and lemons hidden in her petticoat.
Sounds like she's making a punch.
She was arrested and charged with fraud. And after a trial lasting 6 days, she was sentenced to 18 months imprisonment. Now, in 1926, Heinrich Meltzer was exposed as a fraud as he was caught in the seance room with small stones attached to the back of his ears with skin-coloured plaster, which is quite interesting. According to the neurologist Terence Hines, some female mediums went so far as to conceal in their vaginas
Vagapports.
or in their anuses.
Oh, I don't want that one. Oh, you're making me wonder. Making me wonder about my apports I've got now.
That objects to be apported during the seance, and gauzy fabric that would become ectoplasm during the seances. Now, these were back in Victorian times or the early 1900s when no man would go there. And you know where there is.
Although I have to say there were some mediums
who were. Yeah, they were.
They
actually
were allowed
Don't do that with your fingers. Don't do that with your fingers.
Oh dear.
Right. Okay. Where in most cases they were not. They wouldn't be examined.
Now we're not saying that everybody is fraudulent. We are giving you reports of cases that were found. Okay, we've got more stories to tell about more modern day ones as well.
Mm-hmm. So look, if you go through the information, there's lots and lots of information about apports. And most of them stem from the time of the spiritualist movement, as I said, very late 1800s, early 1900s, where there were lots of mediums, lots of psychics, lots of seances going on, and that was often the way that psychics and mediums made the most money. Of course, it was a form of entertainment, and it was because the elite and the rich would be looking for things to do. Remember, we are in a time when there was no radio and there wasn't any TV. So coming to a seance where, the room is darkly lit and, we have people and there's someone sitting there going, is there anyone here that wants to speak to us? And, there are reports and things flying around the room and trumpets and all of that. How exciting would that be? Bloody fantastic. You'd throw money at it. Of course you would. And you would go and see it.
I do.
But, okay, we've got something a little bit more interesting coming into the late 1900s, the 1990s, where there was a group called the Skull Experiment.
Oh, this is interesting.
The Skull Experiment. And they were an experimental group that led a whole set of experiments for about 5 years. Now, they would meet once a week down in the skull hole, as they called it, which was... I know, we're going there. The skull hole, which was a downstairs room that had no windows.
If I ever moved house, it would only be so I can buy a house that has a dungeon type room that I could hold seances in. It would be the only way.
So there was only a doorway in. Otherwise, it was just walls. And when you closed the door off, it was pitch black.
Was it painted red?
No, I don't think so. No. We're cross-referencing here.
Sorry.
Don't do that.
No, Amityville here.
No.
Okay.
So the Skull group started very, very slowly. They had a certain amount of people that would meet every week, and they would try and have things occur. It kind of went really slowly to begin with. So
sounds like us.
They would be, as we would call it, building energy. And making sure that the group that was coming together was working together on the same level, and they were all interested in the same thing. So it took a bit of time to meld all the people in and sort of get things to start rocking and rolling, really, within the experimental sort of phase.
I just want to apologise for the noise that's going on in the background there. It seems my granddaughter is having words with her parents out there, so if you're hearing demonic screaming, it's Charlotte.
Now, when things started to move, what was occurring was that one of the group tended to be the focus, tended to be the person that would be the trance medium. And apparently these groups run best if there is someone who sort of goes into a trance and really becomes the voice box for the spirits that are trying to come through. So when the connection was finally made with the spirit team for the Skull Experiment, things just went off. And they were finding that they were being given instructions to build certain experimental pieces of equipment that would allow phenomena to happen. So a lot of this stuff is online. A lot of this stuff that you can find all the information about. And
there's a documentary as well, if I remember correctly.
There is a documentary, and there is a book that's been written by the people that wrote massive notes after each of the sessions. And
I've got one of them down
it's
there.
it's quite interesting because not only did they have Apports, they also had the old style camera rolls, the film that would go into the camera, and they would have the little rolls sitting on a table, not exposed but still in their boxes. And after a session they would go in and they would find that there would be imprints of images and things on there.
I actually remember reading about a story where they had some of the parapsychologists come in and they brought their own rolls of film with them, which they then locked into a box which they held the key for.
Yep.
And there were still things printed on there, even though they had those controls in place.
Yep. So as time went on, they would actually invite psychologists, psychiatrists, electrical engineers.
Oh God!
Yeah,
had to block the energy. Bring an electrical engineer into the room.
All these university specialists to come in and watch these phenomena, so that there would be this evidence and coming through. And it went on for a really long time, 5 years of continual experimentation, and it went further and further and further and further. It did come to sort of a crashing end, unfortunately, when it was kind of, it seems what they say is that there was a disconnect from both sides. Not only did the spirit team that was working with them say that, you know, this is enough, we can't work with you anymore, but
I wonder if ego came into play.
It could have been. The members of the Skull experiment themselves...
Jenny might know more about that.
Drifted.
I know Jenny, I think, may have even... we've fallen behind. Oh, there's a Hollywood movie about it. Awesome, Jen.
Yeah. So the group itself started to sort of crack and fracture as well. And this, like everything else with the type of stuff we do, there's a lot of dedication, a lot of time that's required, and everyone has their family and you know, things that they have to look after and do in the real world. You can't just sort of go, well, I'm dedicating my life to all of this and I'm not worrying about anything else. You know, things get in the way. Not everyone can just do this sort of stuff. All of these people had their own jobs that they had to go to, so they were really dedicating a mass of their spare time to this. And you kind of know that you get to a point where you can, you know, just be burnt out. Now, just a little bit about the Apports that were coming through. So the first Apport was a Churchill crown in October 1993, which is a coin. In November 1993, a collection of Apports was received as gifts for the group. These were a silver thimble.
This seems to be a thing. Yep, go on.
A small silver locket, a silver chain bracelet, a St. Christopher medallion, an ornate miniature spoon with a spiral metal handle, decorated bowl, an inscription in French on the reverse, and a tiny gold medallion with hieroglyphics. So altogether, throughout the experiments, 70 Apports were received. Wow. That's a lot. An enormous amount, and you've got to remember that these sort of Apports were actually seen by members of the general public who were invited in to sit in these sessions. And we talk about a newspaper, so an Apport of the Daily Express newspaper dated the 28th of May 1945, so over 50 years old, came in. And another one from the early to mid 1940s, which was almost in mint condition, came into the room. The only interesting thing about that one was that the more time that the newspaper was exposed to this time or real time, the more it started to turn yellow.
Oh, so it started to age.
It started to age. Now, isn't that interesting? Yeah. Now, you've got a couple of Apports to show.
Yeah, so there are still some mediums who work with Apports in the current day and age, and I've actually been lucky enough to see two of them. One of them is Kai Mugaji, and my friend Jen gave me some of these. I'm just going to pop it open so I can show you. Now, Renata and I have been to also see Michael Shane. we always have a bit of a laugh because sometimes, now this one is not an apport, but sometimes the size of the apports that come through are like this, and they're given to special people.
We're not special.
We're not special.
We didn't get
We had
any
to go
yet.
buy our own. Because they are activation stones and they are
That's
to use
gotta
them.
hurt.
Yeah.
That's gotta hurt. That size, I don't care where you think you can put that.
I don't know if you're going to be able to see.
Check it out. Okay, and this is very similar to the size that would be coming from an apport by Michael Shane. Michael Shane is...
Or Kai Mugaji, I think, comes up with these ones more often than not.
They're very interesting because you can actually watch them...
I don't know if you can see...
deliver these things.
The rainbow colours in that one? That's one Jen gave me. That was a really interesting little one with the rainbow. Where's the camera on this thing? I don't know where the camera
You've got
is.
it there. I think it's just,
Yeah, you can see a little bit of the rainbow colour in there.
Yeah.
And this was another one. Like that, and they would spit this stuff out like you wouldn't believe. There was stuff coming out everywhere. So this is another little one, which I got. So they're faceted sorts of things. And look, at the time they're coming out, there's sometimes there's a big loud bang, and then sometimes they'll pull their eyes down like this, and all this stuff starts pouring out. And it's generally done in some sort of light, so it's done in a red light. I don't know how they're doing it, but it must hurt. That's all I can say.
That's fascinating because that can you'd have to unlock a jaw to try and get this out.
The mediums are searched before they go into the location. They in some cases they are strip searched, and I remember Kai saying, and you checked every part of my body, and I parted my cheeks for you, and you checked under my ball sack, and I'm going, that's just too much information. Like I've had the privilege of searching the room, and I feel I did a good job of searching the room. All the sitters hold hands, except for his wife, who she sings or talks quietly throughout the whole seance so that you can hear where she is. And there was weird stuff going on in Kai's, but this is another one. I don't know if you can see that from Michael. I love these. It was all these little tiny stones.
Uh-oh.
We'll find that later. Yeah, so now the interesting thing with Michael Shane, he, and Karen saw this with me. I was standing sort of like from me to Renata away from him, and they hold out a big white sheet, and then he comes out, they pull the tape off his mouth, and he goes, and all this stuff. Now I saw it was a clear liquid that then started to form when it was about this far out of his mouth into, I saw like these black crystals and other bits and pieces, and I actually saw the fluid change and morph in front of my eyes. Now, up until that point, I thought that, he might be regurgitating or secreting it and then popping it out of his mouth or something. And then I looked at that as it changed in front of my eyes, and I went, I don't know now. I really don't know. Renata didn't see what I saw. I know Karen did. We were a little bit gobsmacked. So I can't say how they're doing it. I can't say for sure that it's not a man-made regurgitation or something like that. All I can say is I've seen things I can't understand. So there you go. If you want to have a look at some of Michael Shane's work, you can see that on YouTube. He's got some videos up where there's stuff coming out, and you'll see the amount of gems he's regurgitating. And I imagine, because he's been doing this for a few years now, that he would be in seriously ill health if he was actually swallowing that and then bringing it back up again.
Yeah. There's as many answers as you think you might have. There are many more questions when it comes to this whole process of apports, and it's to do with physical mediumship. And there are are only a handful of physical mediums that do any physical mediumship work around the world anymore.
And most of them are fighting and trying to discredit each other at the moment rather than working for
together.
spirit.
Yeah. So it's a little bit of a sad state that physical mediumship is in at the moment.
And what we do is physical mediumship too at the seance parlour with the tables moving and the glass moving. It's a physical thing. So
I haven't worked out how to spit this out yet.
Yeah, I no idea. He wasn't hiding it anywhere on his body. It wasn't anywhere in the room, so I don't know.
No. But it's a very interesting subject, and we do encourage any of you that are listening to go ahead and do your own research in any of these subjects that we are broaching on our weekly sessions here. So by all means, have a look at the Apports. We'll see if we can put up a link or two with Michael Shane's stuff so that you can go straight to that and have a look at it. But yeah, it's a fascinating thing, and we're very glad that you've sort of been listening to this tonight, and that you'll explore for yourself the world of Apports and physical mediumship.
And now she stopped the recording. Yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed our start of our ABCs of the paranormal. I haven't been very naughty this episode at all. I don't know how I'm going to rectify that.
I know, right? I know. We're trying to record as well. Yeah. So that if you don't get to
it'll come up for a podcast.
See this, it'll come up to a podcast. So that's what we're trying to do for 2020 as well. So we're on Podbean as a Frightfully Good podcast. And you can join us there after we pop this on and, spruce it up a little bit, make it nice for all of you. And, and get back onto that. So
don't forget our announcements. We have started a Patreon account. If you feel inclined to be one of our patrons and patrons of the dark arts, so to speak, feel free to check it out. We'll put some links up later, and we will have our e-school coming. Do we have any tours coming up shortly?
Oh, bloody hell. Our new tour, which is at the Great Northern Hotel, sold out within 24 hours. But we are hopefully going to have some more dates. So please, I could have sold it twice over.
Yeah, and look, we can't do them on the weekends, sadly, because the hotel is so flat chat with live music and comedians and everything that they've got going. So it will only ever be a midweek event. What else have we got coming up? We've got Maitland Jail 101, which I think is sold out this Friday night. Yeah,
but we've got more coming up.
Dubbo will be back this year.
Dubbo will be back this year. We're just about signing applications for two sleepovers. Information will come through with that. One of them will be at Maitland Jail. One of them will be elsewhere, which we're hoping once we get the dates, we'll be able to tell you about that. We've got some information about some interstate stuff that we are going to be doing.
Which one of them we can't announce yet completely. We can't even announce the state because we're still in the early stages with that one, but it's very exciting, and those who know, be quiet. But we are going to Perth. Perth is happening. We will announce the venue once we've got the paperwork signed for that. And that's about it for the
Grossman House is coming up soon. Please book for Grossman House at Maitland. So Grossman House will certainly be up. Oh, it is up at the moment. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put out as many dates as we can in advance so that you can sort of plan your shenanigans with us as soon as possible.
For the whole year?
Yeah, for the whole year. Other than that, just keep online, and we'll see you on Thursday anyway for our tarot and our fundraiser for the McMath family. But until then, we love you all so very, very much. Thank you for everyone that's been watching this evening.
And thank you for your ongoing support.
Thank you for your ongoing support, and we'll see you soon.
See you on the dark side.
Bye.
Bye.